Welcome to For the Love of It, TAFE New South Wales sessions. I'm your host, Steph Pappas, and on this special edition, all our guests share a common pathway that TAFE New South Wales have supported their dreams. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people of Eora Nation. We pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to For the Love of It, TAFE New South Wales session, where we showcase creative souls who are doing what they love for the love of it. And I'm your host, Steph Pappas. On this special edition, all my guests share a common thread that TAFE New South Wales have played a contribution to the pathway of them following their dreams. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people of Eora Nation, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Today's guest, Steve Bull, is a distinguished figure in the Australian music industry, renowned bass player for over 3 decades in the iconic Australian rock band Icehouse. The internationally acclaimed band was described as one of the most successful Australian bands of the 80s and 90s when they were inducted into the ARIA Association Hall of Fame. I would say they're still as current as they were, holding that for many, many decades. Beyond his contributions to Icehouse, Steve Bull has also been involved in various other musical projects and collaborations, showcasing his versatility as a musician, as well as in songwriting and music production, making him a world-rounded artist with extensive industry knowledge. His creative journey led him to collaboration with Sony ATV Music Publishing, where he flourished as a songwriter, with his compositions finding homes in the repertoires of esteemed performers like Daryl Braithwaite and Tina Arena. With over 200 titles registered with APRA, showcases Steve's enduring impact on the Australian music industry. Alongside his musical pursuit, Steve Bull has remained committed to nurturing emerging talents, coordinating music programs for disadvantaged youth and producing albums for up-and-coming artists. Steve has worked for TAFE New South Wales as head teacher in music for over 15 years alongside his career with Icehouse, and now is in the role of Industry Innovation Specialist for the creative industries at TAFE New South Wales. Steve sees training within the creative industries is more critical now than ever before reflecting the dynamic, evolving nature of these fields. Steve is a true advocate for showing the way of many pathways and how to navigate to pursue your passion to do what you love. Please welcome Steve Bull to For the Love of It, TAFE New South Wales session.
Thanks, Steph. That sounds like a lot.
It's been incredible looking over your decades of experience in not just as a bass player, which I think, sometimes we get pocketed so much diversity in what you've done. We are here at TAFE New South Wales, we're in Ultimo. Let's start with you, full circle, but coming back, we'll go back to the beginning, but let's start with TAFE and your involvement there, TAFE New South Wales.
Well, right now,
yes,
I'm in the mysteriously titled job of Industry Innovation Specialist. But it's a sort of job where I work with industries to bring intel and opportunities back to TAFE. So it's not just music, it's sort of, I've got this kind of portfolio that I need to cover. So that's games and animation and VFX and sound and film and TV and AV. Gather intel, bring it back to TAFE. Some of it's positive, some of it's bits we're missing. Some of it's opportunities for students to work with the industry partners. Some of it's student competitions. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. It's a pretty interesting job. I was not an expert in any of these areas and I'm still not. So I've had to learn a lot about, I didn't know much about animation or films, or I didn't really have any networks. So I had to kind of, through grace and favours and cold calling and leveraging off other people's contacts inside TAFE and outside of TAFE, get to know them. A lot of it is telling them about TAFE, because there are some segments of the creative industries that don't know a lot about TAFE. They might have gravitated to universities as their first port of call, or they don't look to formal training at all. So that's been really good to kind of go, hey, we do this and we do this and we do it from Wollongong up to, you know, Wollongbar. We do screen and media in Wollongbar, in case you're wondering. So it's cool.
And there's, at the moment in that role, you're really showing them about the movement in the industry, because it is changing from when you started off touring.
Oh
And
yeah,
so,
well everything's changed.
Yes.
Because I'm old. Look, the change in tech, I'm particularly interested in. I've always been sort of fond of that sort of stuff. So just even the move from, you know, needing to hire a recording studio to record to I can do it myself.
Yeah.
But that changes a little bit. It means there's an absolute throng of music out there at the moment. But that's democratized it a bit. So, you know, anyone can do music. So then the job has changed. How do I rise above the noise, as they say? So, you know, here at TAFE, we will teach how to be better at that. But then if you're a musician, you still need to be able to perform. So we'll teach how to get better at that. And then I'll bring in, you know, there's like one of the things that we have been concentrating on in my job is Unreal Engine, which is software that was originally used for games, and now it's used for virtual production, it's used for interior design walkthroughs, and it's taking over the world. So, you know, I'll be coming back to TAFE and going, yeah, we really need to be doing more of this.
Educate, yeah.
And then, you know, I go out into the great TAFE network and find out who's doing what. It turns out all our Unreal Engine geniuses all live in Coffs Harbour. So they have delivered courses into animation companies from Coffs Harbour into Sydney. So that's the cool thing about TAFE. It's got this network of really clever people all over the state, and because of, you know, teams and the like, we can pretty much do anything anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, person to person is always good too.
Well, I want to go into your story because I was fascinated just looking through it, and I'm going back a bit early here. But
Yeah, you are.
actually looking that you spent some time, you grew up in Melbourne, but then you spent some time over in Indonesia with your father's work. And that piano was actually the first instrument that you were taught classically with your sisters. Do you want to take us back to how this transitioned and tell us about that experience of what you know, gathering your love for music in your experience through Indonesia?
Oh, that was, I don't remember much before that.
Yeah.
So they're my first memories, and this is probably not on there, but we came back, went to an international school, as you tend to do in countries in Asia and other parts of the world. Being able to speak fluent Indonesian and spoke with an American accent because I hung around with a lot of American kids. So we could do that. There's some audio somewhere of my sisters and I singing Indonesian songs in perfect dialect, because that's what kids do. They don't think about it too much. So that's that bit. So I've got that little bit of those sorts of songs in my head. And of course, my dad practicing the piano every night.
Because he was an exceptional piano player as well.
He still, look, he's 95, but he still plays. We were chatting last night. I was asking him if he'd practiced this week, and he said he hadn't, and he felt a bit bad about that because he's still kind of going pretty well. So that was the sound of going to bed, was listening to the radio in one ear and listening to my dad practice in the other. So that was the sort of groundwork, and we're all made to learn the piano. Because that's what musical parents do. They make you go and learn the piano. So we did.
Because you share, like, it wasn't like it's something you were pursuing music. It was like you were told to learn piano, but you still were listening to pop music as well as learning the classical. Yeah.
Oh, but that's quite common. I mean, I think, you know, it's quite common with parents now. You try and keep your kids busy.
I've definitely done it with my children. You've had to learn an instrument.
Yeah, and I did it with my kids, and they sort of got into it. But you know, they were good at art, as it turns out. And I think, oddly enough, it wasn't until I was given permission to stop learning the piano.
Yes.
And they said, try the trombone, so I did that. And that didn't really work out. And then I was mates with a few people at school and said, let's form a band. And they went, well, we play guitar already, so you better learn bass. And that was that. And I sort of took to it
That was
really
about
early
15, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, 14, 15
Yeah.
or something. It's a long time ago,
Yeah.
so I don't remember. But the piano really helped.
Yeah.
And I remember my bass teacher, he shot some sheet music in front of me and I could play it early on, and he was sort of semi-amazed, and he shouldn't have been, because if you learn the piano, it's such great grounding. Same with learning guitar. It gives you a perspective. And I sang in a boys' choir too when I was young. And that also gave me a really good sense of harmony.
And harmony, yeah.
Of going, oh, that's how that all fits. So that's like this, and that's like that. Like it's all lines that fit together really nicely. So between all of those things and picking up the bass, I was hooked.
Because I read that there's a point where you were starting to tour at quite a young age, and there was one particular tour when you got back and you were like, this is what I want to do. I think you were year 10 or something, and you shared up the north, going up the coast.
We did. It was looking back, it was so dodgy.
Yeah.
But I joined a band who weren't from school, so they were just through a local music shop, advertised for a bass player, and my bass teacher saw it and said, you should do this. So I showed up and I got the gig, and then they had to come to my house and convince my parents that it wasn't dodgy.
Wow, okay.
So they did that bit well, because it was. I think they ran out of money after 2 weeks. Got a grant to take 2 bands up the coast. Now the band I joined had already done one out to the middle of nowhere in New South Wales, so we went up the coast over like 2.5 weeks. We ended up having to convince the Beach Hotel in Byron Bay, which is quite famous now, but at the time they didn't have bands, to give us $50 so we could get petrol to get back home again. I don't think I told my parents this until years later. I was a bit horrified. But that, I kind of went, oh yeah, this is great. And looking back, it's not an experience that a lot of 16-year-olds get anymore, because the landscape's changed so much. And that's why I kind of really big on TAFE students getting as much playing as they can.
And touring experience.
Just play. Yeah. Just play as much as you can for whatever.
Yeah, getting that experience of gigs, because you had a lot of experience in gigs, and then you went back and you studied at Sydney University.
Oh, that was straight out of school, because my
dad
went,
parents.
If you're going to pursue this crazy thing, then you need to kind of get something to fall back on. So, you will eventually fall back on things if you make something to fall back on. But that wasn't until years later.
Do you want to share the mentor that you had there that really helped?
Oh, look, the truth is I applied for 2 courses. I applied for the jazz course at the Con, which was the only remotely kind of contemporary music thing you could do back then in the 80s. There was no Australian Institute of Music, there was no music at TAFE. There was, I think, maybe a little bit up Southern Cross, and I wasn't going to move to Lismore. So I believe I came 3rd. They only took 2 bass players for all of Australia, so that wasn't too bad. And then I got into composition at Sydney Uni, because that was the other thing I kind of did during the HSC. And yeah, that was sort of a pivotal little sliding door moment. And it was tough, because they were a bunch of classical heads and I was a pop head, and I was a fish out of water. And then in the 2nd year, Peter Sculthorpe, kind of the famous Australian composer, took over. We had a composition class, then we had one-on-ones, and he could see I was struggling, and then he played me some stuff and he went, I think this is for you. And it was sort of Steve Reich, that whole Philip Glass minimal stuff. And I went, oh yeah, I get this. And that was a lesson in teaching too, that he didn't kind of
push you in a...
No, he didn't get all technical about it and say you need to do this exercise and that exercise. He just went, okay, I can see what you need right now.
Yes.
And said, have a listen to this. And that was really good. I've always remembered that, because it was just, that's teaching at its best. And of course, we would move on to technical things, and he would talk about, how to maybe improve your composition and do all that. And we'd listen to stuff and give feedback and go, all that sort of stuff that you do. But it was just that simple thing of going, this is what this person needs.
Yes.
That was great. No, he was amazing, and I did a little bit of work for him after uni, just sort of arranging some of his stuff because he kind of liked my particular angle on things at the time. Yeah, that was great. But then I sort of started touring, and then you move on to other things.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't short. It was only, if you shared it, if I got it right, 3 days after finishing that course, that an experience of another pathway sort of opened up for you.
Yep, I auditioned for Icehouse. This was just before Man of Colours.
Yep.
Which obviously went on to do really well. So I came second, I was told.
I love this story, and it's just a great example for students out there following the pathway.
But I was a fan, so that's why I was so keen to join.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like another gig, because I wasn't kind of.
Did you
I was fresh out of uni.
Sorry? Did you believe you could get it at that point, or was it more an experience? Yeah.
Oh, look, I don't know what I was thinking. I just wanted at least an opportunity to audition. I'd known the drummer for years. Because the drum. No, Paul Wheeler.
Paul Wheeler, yes.
So he got into that band really young.
Yes.
I did a musical with him. I walked into this school musical at James Roos or something. And there's this kid at 17 and he was already spectacularly good. And I just went, oh, holy cow. So we did a few things and then he got the gig. And no, of course it was disappointing. But then you kind of go, well, that's that.
Yeah.
And then I joined some other, the manager or Ivor recommended me to a few other things after that.
Yes.
So that was nice. And then I was in a band, we did some supports with Icehouse.
Yep.
Then I ended up playing with another band and Ivor was producing it. So we kind of rekindled some sort of relationship there. And then I was just about 94, I got a phone call saying, do you want to come and do a gig?
Tell us about that gig, because it sounded extraordinary.
Well, the very first gig was a charity gig.
Yes.
Up in Brisbane. And the old people in the audience would remember Tina was on that, Tina Arena. And what was his name? He's dead now. Most people I know think I'm crazy, that guy. And a few other people. So we just played 3 songs. Billy Thorpe.
Yeah.
And so it was 3 songs. So it was a nice introduction, and it was, I think, my audition really to see how I'd go, because it's dealing with pressure.
Yeah.
At that level, I mean, it's dealing with pressure all the time, but it's different. I mean, I still play a lot of gigs not like that, which is we can get to later if you want. But that went all right, and then the next kind of major thing was Berlin with Sydney Dance Company. That was fantastic. So
to jump to that level.
Oh, it was great. I mean, look, some of the bands I played with, like the mid-90s, I did a tour with Wendy Matthews, who had a #1 album, and then moved on to Jenny Morris, who'd also had #1 albums. So I had a kind of little golden period there where I got used to playing on big stages in front of lots of people, but also the expectation that comes with that. And luckily the invoice that comes with that. Which, had 2 kids by then, so I needed to have decent invoices, and that's not being cynical. It's just like, if you're going to make a living, you need to bring some money in. And
that's the beauty of working consistently with a particular artist, is that the tour is set up for the year. Yeah.
But they start and finish. That's the thing. And so you're not, I think the days of, Icehouse in maybe 1987, 88 would have been someone's job. But those sorts of bands aren't a job anymore. They just
very different.
They start and finish. I mean, I've got friends who play in Jimmy Barnes' band and all that sort of stuff, and they'll do a tour and then it stops. And then they'll go and do other things. So you kind of plot your year out, but it's not no one's on retainers anymore. That used to be a thing.
Well, I think that's where we can share how you've really tapped into so much diversity in the music industry that helps you sustain and be a family man. One of the things, in the 1990s, you were signed internationally to Sony ATV Music Publishing. I mean, extraordinary experience. Over 200 titles.
They're not all great. I'm here to tell you. That came about I'll come in. I always used to tell students that everything's kind of a
Yes.
path, and you can connect everything back to something else, that you met this person and that person and all went like this. And it's never planned.
Always be nice to everyone along
Always
the
be
path.
nice to everyone.
Yes.
Look, on a side note, I remember I worked with a woman called Anna Christensen, who was signed to Sony. And I wrote some songs with her, which was also part of the portfolio that got me a gig, because we really connected as songwriters. And we did a 2-week tour with Hunters and Collectors as the support act. And again, like, you're quite young, you're in your 20s, so you're still learning stuff. And I remember going, they're great every night. Every night they go out there and have a crack.
I've seen them live, but they're spectacular.
Oh, they're great. Yeah. But the crew were really good to us. It was the first time I'd met kind of the new breed of crew. And we were very thankful, saying, thanks for helping us out. Thanks for like doing this and that. Said, well, I might work for you one day. So what's the point of being
Beautiful.
an arsehole? Can I say that?
Yeah.
So that was great. And I think that showed a kind of changing of the guard from
Great
the old
attitude,
school, cranky music industry people, both musicians and crew.
I love that you've highlighted that.
Oh no, you learn a lot of stuff along the way, and that's when you end up at TAFE. 15 years later, you get to go. I'm not telling you this because I'm trying to tell you what to do. It's just, this is what people expect now.
Yes.
Anyway, so I was writing with Anna, and then I wrote a song with a friend of mine who was in that band. And that was another thing you used to do. You just go, you want to write a song? Okay, because we're all writing songs. And he went, Daryl Braithwaite's looking for songs. And I went, okay, I've got some stuff. And so I sent him what's basically a bed, which is like the whole piece of music written. He went, oh, that could be good. We just need to make sure the chorus is high, because he likes that. Because he listened to his stuff and went, well, what can we do to improve the chances of him? Because he'd had one reasonably successful record. And then we did it, and we made a demo, and we got the right singer to sing on it, who had the same sort of voice. And we sent it in, and he loved it, and he recorded it. And it was on the same record as The Horses.
There's nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Yes.
And that went to number one.
Number one. Yeah.
And that was very heartening. And so all of that, between that and Anna, and I was also in my own band at the time, someone like Sony ATV would go, yeah, this person doesn't look like a risk. Oh, we'll invest some time, because they don't sign 1 million people, they sign a few people. And so that's how that happened. And then
Amazing
I had a
achievement.
delivery commitment